Before the flames, there is a sound, not fire, not yet. It begins with something deeper, a low, constant tension that hums through the city like a warning no one can silence anymore. Jerusalem is already broken before it burns. You stand within the walls, and the first thing you notice is not destruction, it is exhaustion. The streets are still there, stone pathways winding through crowded quarters, but they no longer carry life the way they once did. Movement is slower now, faces are thinner, voices are sharper, shorter, strained, because this city has been under siege for months. Siege of Jerusalem, 70 AD, and siege changes everything. Food disappears first, not suddenly, gradually, then completely. You see it in the markets. Empty spaces where grain once filled baskets, tables where nothing is displayed, merchants who no longer call out because there is nothing left to sell. You see it in the people. Their steps lack strength. Their eyes scan constantly, not for opportunity, but for survival. Because hunger does not remain hidden, it becomes visible. You walk further. The city is crowded, not with life, but with desperation. Refugees from surrounding regions have flooded into Jerusalem, believing the walls would protect them. Now, those same walls trap them, because outside them, Rome waits. Titus commands the legions surrounding the city, and Rome does not rush, it tightens. You move toward one of the inner streets, and the smell hits you, not incense, not food, decay. Because death has entered the city long before the fire. Bodies are carried, sometimes buried, sometimes not. Because even that requires energy people no longer have. You hear voices arguing, not about politics, not about theology, but about survival, food, space, control, because when resources disappear, order follows. You begin to notice something else, division. Not just between Jerusalem and Rome, but within Jerusalem itself. Groups, factions, each claiming authority, each fighting for control of what remains. Because even in collapse, power is contested. You pass a burned section of the city, not from Rome, from within. Because factions have already begun destroying parts of their own city, storehouses, supplies, preventing rivals from gaining advantage. And in doing so, they accelerate their own destruction. You feel the weight of that, because this is no longer just a siege. It is unraveling from the inside. You move toward a higher part of the city, and from there you see it Rome, encircling everything, not chaotic, not aggressive in appearance, but absolute. Rows of soldiers, structured, disciplined, encampments laid out with precision, siege works advancing slowly, ramps, towers, machines designed not for speed, but inevitability, because Rome does not attack blindly. It surrounds, waits, weakens, then strikes. You turn back toward the city, and now the contrast is unbearable. Inside, chaos. Hunger, division, outside, order, strength, control. And that contrast tells you everything, because this city is no longer defending, it is enduring, and endurance has limits. You walk toward the Temple Mount, because even now, it stands. Second Temple, still intact, still central, still the heart of the city. People gather there, not just for worship anymore, but because it feels like the last place where something still holds. The courts are crowded, not with celebration, but with presence. Because when everything else falls apart, people move toward what they believe cannot. You stand there for a moment, looking at the structure, the massive stones, the gleaming surfaces, and it is hard to imagine that this will fall, because it feels permanent, unshakable, and yet everything around it is already collapsing. You hear shouting again, closer now, a disturbance, not from outside the walls, from within, because conflict has reached even here. And that is when you realize something that settles deep. Jerusalem is not about to be destroyed. It is already lost. The fire that will come will not begin the end. It will reveal it. And as you stand there, listening to the tension, the hunger, the fractures running through every part of the city, you understand what Rome will burn is only what remains. The breaking point does not arrive all at once. It presses in, slowly, relentlessly, until something gives. You feel it before you see it. A shift in the city's rhythm, not toward calm, but toward collapse. The tension that once held everything together has stretched too far, and now it begins to tear. You move through the streets again. What was once crowded with desperate movement is now fragmented. Some areas are eerily still, homes abandoned, doors hanging open, belongings left behind because there was no strength left to carry them. Other areas are the opposite, violent. You hear it before you reach it, shouting, clashing, bodies moving fast through tight spaces, factions fighting again, not against Rome, against each other, because inside the walls, unity has failed completely. You turn a corner and see it unfold, men pushing, striking, grabbing whatever can be taken. This is no longer about belief or leadership, it is about survival, and survival, when stripped of structure, becomes brutal. You step back, letting the moment pass, because there is nothing here you can stop, nothing anyone can stop anymore. You move upward again, drawn back toward the Temple Mount, because something there still feels central, still feels like it matters. And in a way, it does. You arrive and see the crowds again, but they are different now, more frantic, less ordered. People gather not just in hope, but in desperation, because this place feels like the last thing that might hold, the last thing that might stand, the last thing that might not fall. You look at the temple again, Second Temple. It still rises above everything, still gleams, still dominates the skyline, and yet, now it feels different, not stable, not secure, but vulnerable, because everything around it has changed. You hear something new, a sound that cuts through everything else, a deep, rhythmic impact, distant, but unmistakable. You turn toward the walls, because that sound is not coming from within, it is coming from Rome. The siege has shifted, the waiting is over, the machines are moving. You make your way toward a vantage point again, and this time, the scene has changed. Roman siege towers stand closer now, massive wooden structures rolling forward, protected, deliberate. Ramps have been built, earth piled high, allowing access to the walls that once seemed untouchable. And the sound you hear is impact. Battering rams striking stone, again and again and again, not with chaos, but with rhythm. Because Rome does not rush destruction, it applies pressure until resistance breaks. You watch as defenders attempt to respond, projectiles thrown, fire used, desperate efforts to hold the line, but there is no coordination, no unified defense. Because the divisions inside the city have weakened everything, and Rome knows it. You feel it in the air now, the shift from endurance to inevitability. Because the walls will not hold forever. They cannot, not against this. You step back from the edge, the sound continues behind you, constant, unstopping, and you realize something. This is the moment the city truly begins to fall, not when the fire starts, not when the temple burns, but here, when the barrier between inside and outside begins to fail. You move through the streets again, faster now, because everything feels closer. The sounds, the movement, the urgency. People are reacting, not with strategy, but with instinct. Some flee inward, some gather what little remains, some simply stop, because there is nowhere left to go. You pass a family huddled together, saying nothing, just waiting, because waiting is all that remains when options are gone. You feel the weight of that, because this is no longer a battle. It is an ending. You hear a crack, loud, sharp, different from the others. And then, a shift in sound, a break in the rhythm. Because something has given way, you turn instinctively, and even from a distance, you know. A section of the wall has been breached. The city is open, and once that happens, everything accelerates. The sound of soldiers entering, the clash of movement spreading inward, the structure of Rome, tight, controlled, advancing. You feel it ripple through the city like a shockwave, because now the siege is no longer outside, it is inside. You move quickly, but the city is already changing around you. The sounds are louder, closer, more chaotic, because now two forces occupy the same space, and Jerusalem is no longer contained. You look back once more toward the Temple Mount, still standing, still visible, but now it is no longer protected by distance, and that changes everything, because what once felt untouchable is now within reach. You feel it, deep, unavoidable, that what is about to happen next will not be stopped. And as the sounds of Rome spread through the streets, as the city shifts from siege to invasion, you understand something with absolute clarity. The fire is coming, and when it does, it will not just consume buildings, it will consume everything this city believed could never fall. The city does not fall all at once. It fractures, street by street, wall by wall, breath by breath. You feel it as you move. Jerusalem is no longer a place of resistance, it is a place of collision. Roman soldiers push forward in tight formation, disciplined, controlled, relentless. Their shields locked together. Their movement is measured, advancing through the narrow streets with precision that feels almost mechanical. And around them, chaos. Not organized defense, not unified resistance, fragments of desperate attempts to hold ground that cannot be held. You turn down a narrow passage. The sound is overwhelming now. Metal striking metal, voices shouting, the heavy thud of boots against stone. The confined streets amplify everything, turning each movement into something louder, closer, more immediate. And then fire. Not everywhere, not yet, but enough. A structure catches, flames climb quickly, dry wood, cloth, anything that can burn ignites faster than it can be contained. The smoke rises thick and dark, spreading through the street, choking the air. You step back, covering your mouth instinctively, because this is different. This is not controlled destruction. This is escalation. And once it begins, it spreads. You move toward a more open area, trying to see beyond the immediate chaos. And that's when you realize something critical. The fire is not just happening, it is multiplying. Different parts of the city are beginning to burn simultaneously, not coordinated, not planned in a single direction, but inevitable. Because once flames enter a city like this, dense, dry, built close together, there is no stopping them. You hear people shouting, not commands, not strategy, warnings, cries, panic. Because now the threat is no longer just Rome, it is everything. You push forward again, drawn toward the Temple Mount, because even now, it stands. Second Temple still intact, still visible above the rising smoke, and for a moment, it feels like it might remain, like everything else might fall. But not this. Not the center, not the place that defines everything, but as you move closer, you see the truth. The battle has reached it. The outer courts are no longer filled with worshippers. They are filled with conflict. Roman forces advancing, defenders retreating. The space that once held order now holds confrontation. You feel the shift immediately, because this is not just another part of the city. This is the heart, and the heart is now exposed. You hear shouting, Roman commands, sharp and precise. You see soldiers moving toward the inner structures, and then it happens. Not as a grand moment, not as a dramatic signal, but as a single act. A flame, thrown, carried, placed, and suddenly, the temple begins to burn. At first it seems impossible. The structure is massive, stone, gold, solid, but fire does not need to consume everything at once. It finds what it can. Wood within the structure, doors, beams, interior elements, and once it takes hold, it spreads. You see it climb, slowly at first, then faster. The gold reflects the fire, turning the entire structure into something that looks alive, burning, glowing, breaking. The sound changes. Not just shouting, not just movement, but cracking, splitting. The structure itself responding to heat it was never meant to endure, and suddenly, the impossible becomes real. The temple is not standing, it is falling. You feel it deep, because this was not just a building, it was identity, center, meaning. And now, it is being undone. You watch as flames rise higher, smoke pours into the sky, thick and black, visible from every part of the city and beyond. The sound becomes overwhelming, people shouting, crying, running, trying to reach it, trying to stop it, but no one can. Because once fire takes hold at this scale, it does not listen, it does not slow, it consumes. You step back as heat pushes outward. Even from a distance you feel it, the intensity, the force. Because this is not controlled destruction anymore. This is total. You look around, the city is burning, not just the temple, homes, structures, streets. Everything that can catch is catching, and everything that catches is feeding the fire. You realize something now. There is no center left, no place untouched, no place to gather, no place to retreat, because the one place that defined the city is gone. And without it, everything else loses meaning. You turn slowly, trying to take it all in. The flames, the smoke, the movement, the collapse of something that once felt permanent. And you understand this is not just destruction, this is erasure. Because what is being lost here is not just physical, it is foundational. And once that is gone, nothing returns the same. The fire does not stop. It consumes, relentlessly. What began as scattered flames is now a single, overwhelming force moving through the city with nothing left to resist it. The streets you walked before, tight, crowded, alive with tension, are now filled with smoke and heat so thick they distort everything. You can barely see, but you can feel it. The air burns. Every breath is heavier, harder, filled with ash and fragments of what once stood. You move carefully, but there is no clear path anymore, because Jerusalem is no longer structured. It is collapsing. You hear it all around you, stone cracking under extreme heat, wood beams giving way, walls splitting. The sound is constant now, a low, rolling collapse that never fully stops. You turn toward the Temple Mount again, or where it was, because what once dominated the skyline is no longer whole. Second temple. The structure is breaking apart. The gold that once reflected sunlight now reflects fire, melting, running between stones, disappearing into the destruction. Flames surge upward, consuming everything inside, the inner chambers, the courts, the veil, everything gone. You feel the weight of that more than anything else. Because this is not just the fall of a building, this is the loss of a center, the place where everything converged, worship, identity, history is no longer there. And once it is gone, nothing replaces it. You step back again, trying to create distance, but distance no longer matters because the entire city is affected. The fire spreads through homes, through streets, through every structure that can sustain it. You see people running, some carrying what little they could grab, some carrying nothing, some not moving at all, because there is nowhere left to go. The walls that once protected them now trap them, and beyond those walls, Rome still stands, waiting, controlling. You hear Roman voices again, commands cutting through the chaos, directing movement, ensuring that the destruction is complete. Because this is not accidental, this is intentional, not just to defeat, but to erase. You move toward one of the outer edges, the gate, or what remains of it, and you see it clearly now. The city is open, broken, no longer contained. Smoke pours outward, rising into the sky in thick columns that can be seen for miles. This is not a hidden event. This is a signal, a statement. Jerusalem has fallen. You turn back one last time, and what you see is almost unrecognizable. The streets are no longer defined, the buildings no longer distinct. Everything blends into fire, smoke, and collapse. The landmarks that once oriented the city, gone. The paths that once guided movement, gone. The structure that once held everything together, gone. And in its place, only destruction. You feel something deeper now, not just the physical reality of what is happening, but the weight of what it means. Because this city was not just another city, it was central, sacred, defining, and now it is reduced to ash. You realize something in that moment that changes everything. This was not sudden. This was not random. This was the end of something that had been building for a long time, through tension, through division, through choices made over years, decades, and now it has reached its conclusion. You look once more at the horizon beyond the city. Rome remains structured, unchanged, because for them this is victory, for Jerusalem this is ending. And as the fire continues to burn, as the smoke continues to rise, as the last structures fall, you understand something that lingers long after the flames are gone. That what was destroyed here was not just stone. It was a way of life, a center of meaning, a place that defined how people understood God, themselves, and the world around them. And now, it is gone. But the story does not end here. Because when something this central is removed, something else begins. Not immediately, not visibly, but inevitably, because the absence left behind will shape everything that comes next. And as you stand there, watching the last of the city disappear into fire and smoke, you realize Jerusalem did not just fall that day. It changed forever, and so did the world around it.